With all the buzz going around the Nintendo Switch 2 releasing in just a few days, I thought I would make a video talking about why I think the newest entry in the Nintendo family of consoles might be different than you think. The Nintendo Switch 2 being absolutely blasted in comment sections, whether it's a live stream by Nintendo with walls of text that says drop the price, or just the millions of opinions in the different comment sections of different videos. And it has us wondering, is it true? Could all this outrage really mean that the Nintendo Switch 2 will flop? Personally, I don't think so. The first reason I don't think that it will is just one singular name that holds multiple reasons behind it. And it's definitely the most obvious. And that name is Mario. Ask anyone you know to name a video game character, whether it is your grandmother, your dad, your brother, your grandpa, they will more than likely recognize the name Mario, and without hesitation, that would probably be their first answer. Mario is the best-selling video game franchise of all time by like a lot. And there are multiple entries just in his name and based around his world alone. Super Mario games, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Paper Mario, Mario RPGs, even things like Mario Tennis and golf. And all of these games are exclusively on Nintendo consoles. And all of these games can be enjoyed by every single member of your family. Have a kid who's just learning to play games? Let them learn to play Mario. Have a grandparent that's living in your house and you're trying to look for a way to connect with hobbies with them? Play Mario Kart with them. Want a game night with some friends and family? Turn on Mario Party. Personally, this is one of the ways that my wife and I's family connects. Most of the time, we'll just gather around and play a bunch of Mario Kart together and have conversations as a family. And I know some people are already thinking, well, can't you just emulate these games on a PC? And that's a topic that we're not going to get into today. And aside from that, most families that are just casually playing video games don't have a dedicated gaming PC in their home anyway. And I would even venture to say that most families that are just casually playing these games don't even know what emulating a game even means. And like I said, a lot of families, especially casual gaming families, even die-hard gamers who don't emulate games alike, will buy a Nintendo Switch just for the Mario series. That alone is crazy numbers, as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold over 65 million units for the Nintendo Switch alone. That is the best-selling Nintendo Switch game of all time. And this isn't including the 8 million sold for the original game on the Wii U. Just thinking about the new Mario games that they have up their sleeves with this new system makes me so excited. Mario Kart World already looks amazing, and the amount that they can accomplish with this new hardware that is so impressive, and to see the love and effort that they've poured into the mainline Mario titles already will be a true sight to behold on the Nintendo Switch 2. One of the things that truly stuck out to me the most about the announcement of the Nintendo Switch 2 is the support for Nintendo Switch 1 accessories. Even the Joy-Cons. I absolutely love this detail, and I know a lot of fans will as well. Over the years, my wife and I have acquired so many Nintendo Switch Pro controllers, as well as even just Joy-Cons, and it would be a shame just to let them kind of rot in a drawer. We have 3 Pro controllers and I think 5 or 6 pairs of Joy-Cons. And considering games like Mario Party and Mario Kart do require a lot of controllers to play those games with friends, having this ability to just bring over our Nintendo Switch 1 controllers to the Nintendo Switch 2, as well as buying things like the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, will be absolutely incredible, and we'll be able to play games like Mario Kart World the day it releases with 4 people. Considering games like Mario Kart and Mario Party do require that you have more than one controller to play, having this backstock of controllers for the Nintendo Switch 1 being available to play on the Nintendo Switch 2 will really help our wallet when it comes time to play those games with friends. I personally ran into this issue a lot on the PlayStation 5 whenever I played games like College Football 25 when I had some friends over. I really wanted to play that game, but unfortunately I only have one PS5 controller and I don't really have a reason to buy a second one. But I have plenty of PS4 controllers. The only problem is that game does not support PS4 controllers. But I was not able to play those games with my friends for things like our fantasy football draft, and it really stunk, but I'm so glad that Nintendo has given us that option to carry over our Nintendo Switch 1 controllers. And I really think that is a huge selling point, especially for those families who did own a Nintendo Switch 1 and have acquired some controllers over the years. They will now be able to buy the system and still play with their family with their old controllers. I think most families that owned a Nintendo Switch 1 more than likely had more than one controller, so going to Switch 2 and not having to buy multiple other controllers to play their favorite games with their families will be such a huge selling point. And that's not to mention that that one singular Joy-Con can actually act as its own controller, so you already have technically two pairs that come with the system. Even last night, my wife was playing with one singular controller on Mario Kart because one of our Pro controllers was dead. And really, from a business standpoint, Nintendo had every single right to make the Nintendo Switch 2 only compatible with Nintendo Switch 2 controllers, at least for the new games, but they didn't. And I really think that's such a huge testament to Nintendo, truly. And as someone who's kept up with the Nintendo Switch 2 updates for a long time, and it's finally here, we have all said one thing from the beginning, at least most of us: make the Nintendo Switch 2 the Nintendo Switch, but more powerful. And that's exactly what they did. The concept of a handheld and home console all in one is the most appealing thing ever to me, and I really think that Nintendo has hit a grand slam with this formula. It's truly remarkable how amazing that system was for me, as well as so many others. But in its later years, most of us can definitely agree that its hardware was starting to show its age. Drop frames, lower resolution, and ports of third-party titles like Hogwarts Legacy were really great, but obviously were just a shell compared to their PlayStation and Xbox counterparts. But now with the ability to run games at 120 FPS and 1080p, and even games at 4K with a lower frame rate, is absolutely insane. This opens the door for so many games to come to Switch that previous Switch owners could never experience. Already games like Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Madden, and more are getting a Switch 2 port. And there's even that new From Software game, Duskbloods, that is a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. This allows those who previously shied away from the Nintendo Switch, even if they like some of the IPs, to pick one up because now they can play some of those more realistic games like Final Fantasy VII Remake on that system. No longer will they have to pick and choose. And really, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many games that I'm sure that they're going to port to the Nintendo Switch 2, and there's games that's not even announced yet that are still in development that will be released on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, as well as the Nintendo Switch 2. This allows families who are only able to buy one console to maybe pick the Nintendo Switch 2 over other consoles because it already has such strong IPs that they know and love, as well as some more upscaled third-party titles that weren't previously available on the Nintendo Switch 1. But new third-party titles aren't the only thing coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. We've already seen the amazing backlog of retro games that is available for Nintendo Switch Online and Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscribers. The base Nintendo Switch Online membership is $20 a year. That is super fairly priced, and the most expensive, which is the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack with the whole family up to 8 Nintendo accounts, is $80 a year. We've already seen NES, SNES, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, and even Sega Genesis games available to play with Nintendo Switch Online. And now with the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement, there is even the inclusion of GameCube games as well. This is something that so many, myself included, have wanted for such a long time. There's so many games in these catalogs that parents can show to their kids that they can experience together, and for people like me who have never played games like Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness to experience those games for the first time, and not having to pay those huge GameCube prices. Countless hours could really be spent going through these classic libraries alone, and the fact that it's included in the price of a Nintendo Switch Online membership is absurd. Not only that, but they've added some incredible quality of life features in these titles, like the ability to rewind a game and start back at a certain point if you messed up, because we all know old games were much harder. Between this and the ability to play some of the newer third-party titles, as well as exclusives on this system, Nintendo is really covering so many bases of gaming that both fanatics, casuals, and everyone in between can enjoy playing. One of the craziest things to me is how much Nintendo has accomplished even since the release of the Nintendo Switch in 2017. Think back to that time and how much has happened since just then to now. Games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom completely revolutionized gaming with what they've done. Breath of the Wild truly changed the way that people play Zelda and bringing in hordes of new fans, exciting existing fans, as well as truly changing the gaming scene altogether. It was a marvel of its time, and people are even still enjoying it now. And then for them to release Tears of the Kingdom on that same system with all the features like the ascendability alone on a glorified toaster is just absolutely mind-boggling. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has lasted for more than 10 years. 10 years. We've played this game for so long, and even last night my wife and I booted it up with our nephew just to play a few races. Games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Pikmin 4 help shine a light on Nintendo franchises that non-diehards more than likely knew nothing about. And both of these games were incredible. Things like the Super Mario Bros. Movie was also released. This movie broke records and was even one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. And we all know that Peaches took the world by storm. And there was even the opening of Super Nintendo World in Japan, Hollywood, as well as Orlando, Florida. Ashley and I have experienced the park in Orlando, and it is nothing short of just absolute pure magic. You could really look around and see the smiles on everyone's faces and just how much fun everyone was having, whether they were a kid who loved Nintendo or maybe even a grandparent that loved Nintendo. It was just absolutely an amazing time from the moment you stepped through that portal. All of that to say, Nintendo is more popular than ever. I feel like they're definitely on the climb, and more people are learning about more of their games than just the Mario games, as well as exploring all the new Mario titles, as well as watching things like the Mario movie as well. People who grew up playing consoles like the NES are able to share that same love of gaming with their children or grandchildren on the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. It truly spans generations, and they're only expanding to things like movies and even theme parks. There's a new animated Super Mario Bros. Movie in the works, as well as a live-action Legend of Zelda movie in the works. I truly think that they have learned from the Wii U letdown, and I mean, it truly is best to learn from your mistakes. I know that they took great consideration with this console. Even naming it Nintendo Switch 2 alone was kind of a big deal because it let fans know that it wasn't just another Nintendo Switch, it was a whole new system. And we've already touched on it a little bit, but really the best selling point for any console is the games that are going to be released on it. We know that Mario is a Nintendo exclusive, but just think of all the other strong titles that they haven't even announced new games for that are only going to be available on the Nintendo Switch 2. New entries for games like The Legend of Zelda, Kirby, Pikmin, even if they decide to announce a Kid Icarus game or a Star Fox game. And that's not even to mention Donkey Kong Bonanza that will be releasing soon that looks incredible. All of these games will be exclusive on the Nintendo Switch 2, and you can't play them anywhere else. I mean, just think about Mario Kart alone. How many people do you know who bought a Nintendo Switch just to play Mario Kart? And not only Mario Kart, but I know so many people who bought a Nintendo Switch just to play Animal Crossing New Horizons. And probably the biggest reason that I feel so strongly about Nintendo IPs, and probably the reason I love their games so much, is I really feel like they are released completed with minimal bugs versus other games that have been released on other consoles that I own. Rarely have I ever felt like, especially in the recent years, that I purchased a Nintendo game and it's felt unfinished. This just makes me more anticipated for the games that they haven't even announced. It makes me so excited, as I know I'll love probably most of the games, if not all of the games that they'll announce for their mainline titles. So I truly think that their strong IPs are the biggest thing that's going to sell this system and keep it selling for years and years to come. All in all, if you can't tell, I'm so excited to get this system in just a few short days, and I know so many others are as well. I've truly been so let down by seeing some of the negative comments about this system, as whenever the direct happened and my wife and I watched it live, we were just jaw to the floor, absolutely amazed. So to see that opposite backlash on the end has kind of just made me feel less excited, or like people aren't as excited. But I wanted to make this video just talking about why I'm excited, why I think so many others are excited, and just to maybe help you out if you're also kind of feeling that negative emotion as well. If you're like me and you have seen all that negativity, just know that it's not everyone, and there are people that are still super excited, and more than likely what's going to happen is it's going to release, people are going to realize that IPs are great, people are going to buy a Nintendo Switch 2, and we're all going to have an amazing time playing it, making so many memories on that console, just like we did with the Nintendo Switch 1. And obviously, I know that nothing on this side of eternity is perfect, but I am super excited for the Nintendo Switch 2, and if you are as well, drop it in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Have an amazing day, and God bless. I gotta go to work.